You're right. There's absolutely no audio. No audio whatsoever. No audio whatsoever. Restarted the whole system tonight. Forgot to turn on the volume. All right, all right. So you should be able to hear me now, right? Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Man, that was a good introduction too, man. That was a good introduction too. And I missed it. All right, you all should be able to hear me now. Let's wait for just a second to let the audio catch up with everybody. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Ta-da, can hear you now. Yes. All right, man, that was a good introduction too. Doggone it. I restarted my whole system tonight and forgot to turn the microphone button. There's an on-off button. I forgot to hit on. Let me change the volume levels and everything. Give me just a second here to crank some volume down. Oh, yeah, volume's really loud. Hold on. All right. Get some of that fuzziness out of there. You should be able to hear me a little bit clearer now. Okay, so it was a little high. Again, I restarted the whole system, and I forgot to make those adjustments. I always forget to do that. Anyhow, let's try to start over again. First of all, welcome to Spindle TV. Tonight, we're going to have a pretty cool class. Learn something that we're bringing an oldie but a goodie back. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But what I was saying was, bonjour, Monza. How are you? Brooks Martin, early and on time, first to arrive. Thank you. And John Thompson, Ronnie Probert, good to see you as always. And Jeff Smith. Jetty, I said hello to you, but you didn't hear me because my volume was off. David Heineke, Jerry Williams. How you doing, buddy? And let's see. We had Ronnie Bishops hanging out tonight. Stephen Main. Good to see all of you. Let me see. Got Troy. Troy's popping in. What? Troy says what? That's because he can't hear me. He couldn't hear me before. Nobody could hear me before. All right. So we should. John Thompson, let me know if the sound is a little bit better now. That fuzziness. Let me know. And everybody else, if you hear any fuzziness, let me know. All right. So tonight we are going to, we're actually going to talk about making lithophanes. And we're going to use some modern techniques with making lithophanes, meaning, like AI image generation and things like that to help us with generating images and stuff. Lithophanes, when I first started in 2014, when I started with the Vectric software and everything, man, for me, it was like, I want to learn how to make lithophanes, and all kinds of stuff. And I made lithophanes, out of corian. I made lithophanes out of candlestone. I made lithophanes out of PVC pipe on the rotary axis for like round lamps and everything. And I was always into it and everything. And then it just kind of, I stopped, hadn't made them in a long time. But I also, I noticed there's not a lot of, content creators out there, that I might have missed some of the videos, but that, that are really, talking about lithophanes that much anymore. And it used to be, there was all kinds of interest around that topic and everything. Well, now, here we are, 2025. We have AI now for image generation and things like that. And so now, bringing back some of the techniques and everything. Now, before old Aspire 8, 8.5 and everything, doing a lithophane was a little bit trickier. Just like almost like rest machining was a little bit trickier, and now it's all built into the software and stuff like that and everything. And so I think it was probably version 10 or 10.5. I can't remember what version where. On the preview Toolpath, they added a little lithophane slider to kind of give the illusion of a backlit preview and everything. So, Vectric was, they were involved with it too. They knew that, people wanted to make lithophanes and stuff like that. And, but I don't see that much of it anymore. So I thought, you know what? I want to do a class. I want to make an image with AI. Want to bring the image in, and I want to lay out a lithophane, and I'll show you some of my. I want to show you some of my settings that I like to use and everything, and we'll go from there. Now, sorry, you're gonna have to forgive me for a minute. I just looked up at my preview to see what y'all are seeing and everything, and I've really got to get back to the gym. I'm getting fat right here. I mean, I used to have a double chin, but man, it hanging down, and it shocked me for a minute. I look over and all I see is just I got to get back to the gym. I haven't been to the gym in, if I'm honest, it's been about 8, 9 months, year, whatever. It's been a while, long time, and I was going every day faithfully for years, and I just got busy, right? Life, but now I'm getting a little chunky monkey Laney. There you go. All right, so let's get this party started, and let's get over to an AI generator, image generator, and we will get things cranking off and stuff. Man, I cannot believe. Yeah, I don't pay that much attention to it, but I'm like in 1080p right now, ladies and gentlemen. It's like right there in your face. Can't miss it. I'm getting a little empty. You know what it is? I'm single. I don't have anyone push me saying you need. I'm gonna leave you if you don't get looking better. All right, no, they are not people that. They won't do that to you. Okay, so let's go over to, let's share a screen, my entire screen. And the product that I use, I keep hitting the wrong button, share an entire screen. Hey, JR, thanks for popping in. The product that I use for my AI tools is Galaxy.ai. Galaxy.ai. It's about it's discounted right now. It's about $15 a month, but you have access to all kinds of AI. I mean, over 2,276 different AI tools, from chatting with AI to making your own custom helpers and AI helpers and everything, to photo studio generation and headshots and all kinds of stuff. Well, what we're going to be dealing with is AI image generation, where we can verbally describe. It's all, yes, Ronnie, it is all the desserts that I make. I got to stop for a second to comment on that one. Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm eating too many of those. But man, I'm enjoying my time in the kitchen, really am. So the AI generation, you can describe what you want, and the result will pop out, something pretty darn close. And to give you an example, we'll show you some of my recent generated images and things. One of the ones that you saw were in the preview of the thumbnail of this video in this class and everything. And basically, you just literally describe what you're wanting. So here I said, and sometimes you don't always get what you describe, right? And everything. So here I wrote, a stunning high definition portrait of a black bear in a lush sun-drenched forest. Try to be as descriptive as possible, just like if you were telling a story, right? The bear leans against a majestic oak tree. Its fur is glistening in the warm afternoon light. Soft rays filter through the leaves, creating a beautiful bokeh effect in the background. The composition captures the serene atmosphere with a depth field that blurs the instant foliage, emphasizing the bear's relaxed pose. Just make them look, just kind of chill, relaxed as it scratches back. Now, it's not scratching its back, right? So it's not leaning against the tree, kind of rubbing its back, that kind of thing. It's just leaning on the tree. So it didn't get that part of it and everything. The mood is tranquil and inviting, invoking a sense of harmony with nature, right? So just a nice, calm picture. Now, I didn't have to get that extreme, right? I didn't have to go that crazy. I could have simply, if we go back to the description here, I could have said something like a high definition image of a black bear in a wooded area. Now, when I generate that image and everything, what I will get the result I'm going to get is really going to be based on how much information I can give the AI. I can even say things like, come in at a low angle, 35 millimeter lens, and like describe, like f-stops and things like that. I'm not a photographer, but, I know a little bit about stuff like that. And so I can really like describe what I want. And the AI, the more information it has, the more it can do with it, right? And so from that simple definition of a high definition image of a bear in a wooded area, this is the result I had, right? Still not bad. Not bad at all. It's exactly what I told it I wanted. A black bear in a wooded area, right? So let's go ahead and we will open this image up in another tab. And I'm going to use my snipping tool, and I'm just going to snip what I want of it. Let's say that right there. And then I'm going to save that as bear in the woods 2, because I already have one. All right, so got a couple of images that we can look at playing with, right? And so the results, from this are absolutely phenomenal. I mean, you can really, really have fun with this. And it doesn't have to be, for the most part, you don't have to have real images. You can also, with the Galaxy AI, I can create illustrations, illustration type images, drawings and graphics and vectors and everything. Like when I'm, doing V carving and stuff like that, I can give a description, a black and white line drawing of a grizzly. I think I spelled grizzly right. Grizzly bear. Let's see. Standing on its hind legs near a tree. Right now, of course, I could give it more information than that, but based off that information, I can, try to create an illustration. It's almost kind of like a drawing, if you will, and everything. And the image generation sometimes, takes a few minutes. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's relatively quick. It just depends on how much detail in things that that you give it, and what it's trying to do, right? So from this, we have, that's an illustration, like a cartoon, right? Like an illustration. So exactly, what I said, a grizzly bear standing on its hind legs next to a tree, right? I didn't give it a whole lot of information. I could have been a little bit more detailed in my explanation and things. But now I could take that image over and, trace and carve it, right? So the world is your oyster when it comes to AI and the things that we can generate. If we look at some of the images and things that I have created over the past with simple descriptions and things like that, showing kind of like like rotary type stuff, or, you know, CNC type stuff, deer in the woods, you know, kind of images and things which make beautiful lithophanes. And you can really, create some beautiful things, right? And what's the signature in the bottom right? The signature in the bottom right is probably just, let's go back to that. It can be removed when you bring it in, but it's probably just AI signing its work, right? Let's see here. Let's go to generated illustrations. Work T's on, work T's on, WARCK T's on, right? So who knows, right? But that's that. So it really just depends on what you do. All right, so I have the images that we're going to work with tonight. I just wanted to show you the AI image generation and the things that we can do. Small house made of French fries, whatever. And we have different, with Galaxy AI, I have access to different AIs. I have access to Leonardo. I've got Flux. I've got Dolly, GPT, image generator, stable diffusion. All of these are wonderful image and art creating GPTs, AIs, artificial intelligence. And any one of these I can use depending on what I'm wanting and everything. I can choose any one of these to create the different images that I want. And if I keep my, depending on my tones and stuff, I can somewhat keep the same color scheme or color theme or the same generation on to keep some, keep things homogeneous with, if I'm using like graphics for letterhead or for business or for whatever, I can try to keep, you know, the color tones and things the same. I can even specify color tones and all that wonderful stuff. All right, so this is Galaxy.ai. That's what we're using tonight, and it is it's a phenomenal phenomenal generator. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the Vectric software now. And in the Vectric software, I'm going to create a new file. Now, generally, we would make this to fit in some kind of a frame because we're going to backlight it and everything. And for me, I'm going to, you know, do a custom backlight. Now, just so you know, really quickly, I'm going to bring myself up really quickly on the camera. So let's do this. There's all types of medium and materials that one can work with. This is dirty because it's been out in the shop, but it does have a protective coating that I can peel off where all the clean stuff is. But this is a 1/4-inch candlestone. And there's Corian, there's candlestone, and I got to peel the back off that one too. Sitting in my shop, they get dirty and everything. Yeah, you can use AI in VCarve Pro, Vectric VCarve Desktop Pro, or Aspire. You sure can. But these sheets here, I buy them in, you know, 5 or 10 packs and everything. Amazon sells them. You can get good. Actually, you can get some good prices on eBay. And then also there's just websites that, you know, for Candlestone or Corian suppliers. I like Candlestone not more than Corian or anything like that. You know, I started out when I was making Lithophanes, I started out with Corian, but then I made the switch to Candlestone because it was a little bit more translucent. My lighting effects were better and everything to get that really beautiful black and white image. And I mean, but I've used even PVC pipe. I love on the 4th axis PVC pipe, rotary lithophanes, and put a lamp in the middle and stuff to create a kind of a 360-degree lithophane, but little night lights and things like that. But I made the transition. I don't know exactly what year or whatever I made the transition to candlestone, and I like the candlestone. Now these are let's see here. (10 by 12). These are 10 by 12, and they're so dirty. That's their plastic cover I can peel right off. But these are 10 by 12 sheets, and they are 1/4 inch thick. And the LED lights, let me see if I can, bear with me a second. That was the wrong one. There we go. The LED lights are that I use are just the 50/50 LED lights. The 50/50 have this kind of plastic, real heavy, waterproof, if you will, membrane on it, you know, kind of thing, and it's adhesive on the back. They are wonderful, and I have they are RGB, so meaning that I can change they're 12 volt RGB, meaning I can change the color tone and everything. But these here, because these are for my lithophane, these are white lights. These are my white ones. These are my RGB ones. But when it comes to the lights, I like if I'm doing lithophanes, I don't want to get a RGB, red, green, blue, you know, where you can change the tones and colors and all. Sort of like, let's see here. I don't even know if this thing will power up. But sort of like this, you know, I can, it turned green, so it turned invisible. But, you know, this can, you know, I can change the tones from purples to blues to reds. This is kind of an accent light that normally sits behind me for lighting on the camera and stuff. But this is great, but white is never white. You know, white is never white with the RGB. It's kind of almost like an ice blue, if you will, right? So I like the true white when I'm doing lithophanes and everything, because that 1/4 inch candlestone or corian and all, it's translucent, so it means that light will penetrate through it. But the thicker the material, the less light gets through. That's your darker areas of your photo. And the thinner the material, the more light can get through. That's the lighter areas, the whites and everything in your photo and everything. And so we're going to see the settings and stuff that I use and see, you know, how that. But online, you can just type in, you know, candlestone. There's all kinds of sources, you know, candlestone sheets or lithophane sheets or corian sheets, right? For those different supplies. You can find some on Amazon, eBay, or just, you know, websites that sell that supply that type of material, craft stores and things like that. All right. Well, that being said, let's go ahead and pop back over to here. And I have a sheet that is 10 by 12. And I'm going to run the 12 along the x-axis and the 10 inches along the y. In this case, kind of like a landscape versus a portrait landscape and everything. I'm going to touch off on the material surface for this, and we can start from anywhere. The center is fine in things. And I will be turning the resolution up, but I'm going to click OK first. And then let that create. And then I'm going to hold down the Shift key, click on the Set Job Dimensions and Origin. And then I'm just going to turn it up to it extremely, because I am going to be creating a model from this image and everything. Now, sadly, Sadly, while you can use AI image generation and graphics and things like that in Vectric VCarve Desktop and Pro and Aspire, when it comes to lithophanes, there's really kind of two choices. Back in the day, they used to have a choice like a photo VCarve standalone program that did two things. It did kind of VCarve of photos, and it also did lithophane type carvings. And then years later, they brought the VCarve part of it, the photo VCarve part of it, into Vectric. That's we see that toolpath right next to the VCarve toolpath. We have photo VCarve now. But the lithophane aspect is still an Aspire feature. Still requires Aspire to be able to import an image and turn it into a model and everything. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Now, I had another image that was that I generated, and this image of a grizzly bear in the woods, really kind of, it's a low angle image. Basically, like if you were sitting on your behind, camera pointed up towards the sky, sunlight kind of catching, you know, the top of the trees and everything, and this grizzly kind of, you know, walking around this large tree, right? And this is going to be the first image that we're going to be working with. So we have light areas in the sky, not really light, but our white areas are going to kind of be the sunlight, these little sunlight rays and everything. Then we have our darker areas. So as in the bear, we have its paws and everything, which are kind of black, and then transitioning to brown. So the depths are going to vary so that the light and the shadow varies as well. But this is going to be our subject image. It is landscaped. That's one of the things that in the AI generator, we can tell it we want like a square image or 16 by 9, or we can say anything that we want. When carving with a lithophane, we're going to just use tapered ball nose bits. There is going to be a rough cut, like a, you know, a 3D rough cut, and we'll use probably an 1/8 inch bit for the rough cut. And then there's going to be a finish cut. And on the finish cut, we will probably use a 16th inch tapered ball nose. Now, a 16th inch tapered ball nose will do it. You don't need to go any lower than that. But if you did go smaller now, it's going to increase your runtime dramatically with these things, right? This is not a slow run carve. They take some time, but the results are phenomenal. But we could step down if we really want to get into some serious detail. We could step down to a 32nd inch tapered ball nose with a 64th inch radius. But generally, I mean, that's an extreme detail situation. But the 16th inch tapered ball nose with a 32nd inch radius generally is enough. I would have to say most of my lithophanes have been carved with the 16th inch tapered ball nose. But there are occasions where time isn't a factor for me, but detail is, and so I'll step it down and everything. Just depends on what it is. All right, this one I don't know. I think a 16th will be good, unless I really we'll see in the preview. And if I think that, you know, cleaning up the fur or anything like that, or getting better details in the trees, because I mean, these trees, you know, as you look again, as we get further into the distance, this is kind of like a portrait mode, right? Where what's in front of me is focus. The focal point is on the bear, and then everything back is blurred, right? So as we start getting into the distance and everything, the trees, the detail in the trees, that's just blurred, right? And the main detail was this. Now we'll do two bear images. One, we'll do this image here. This is going to be the first one we work with, but we also just created this one, right? So we'll also do this one to kind of show how that would come out in a lithophane. All right. So let's get this party started. We're going to use the tool from Vectric, one of the Vectric features here. We're going to use the tool to create a component from a selected or imported bitmap. Create a component from a selected or imported bitmap, which means that it's going to create a model from your photo right upon import, during import. So we're going to click on that. And in our file explorer that opens up, we're going to choose, we'll do the grizzly in the woods. And any bitmap image will work just fine. JPEG, PNG, bitmap, GIF, and TIFF, right? Any of those. This happens to be a PNG. And notice the size that it come in. Here's my workpiece. Here's the size. It's going to come in kind of large and everything. And so I'm going to size it down. We'll get it sized, here in just a moment. And I'm going to get it centered onto the board. And on the size, remember, my part is 10 by 12. Okay, 12 long, 10 tall. So if I look at this here, I need to either at least be under 10 or under 12. Since this is the larger number, I'll bring this one down. And I'm going to bring this down to... let's go 11.625. Let's try that again. 11.625, and that'll make it 8 here. That's fine. Any excess that I don't want, I can just trim off. It cuts very nicely with a table saw or the CNC, right? I can just use a 1/4-inch end mill to square it up or whatever. Now, keep in mind, this is meant to go into a frame. So I want my thickest part of this 1/4-inch material, I want that's going to sit into the rabbet on the back of my frame, my custom frame that I make, or a frame I buy in a store, whatever it is, right? I could go to Hobby Lobby for a couple bucks and buy a few dozen frames, 8.5 by 11 or 10 by 12s or whatever, or I could make them myself. I like to make them myself, so I can really make them any size that I want. And the rabbet on the back where the image goes and everything like that, we're going to make sure that the carving doesn't really bleed into that. I want that nice 1/4-inch kind of outline around it and everything. So I'll go ahead and draw out my rectangle. And what I'll do is, to keep this consistent, All right, so if I were to measure from here to the edge of my image, and I could also do the math. I could look at my image size versus my product size and then just do the math, right? But I'm just going to do a kind of a horizontal measurement to get just a general idea. So I'm just, right almost right around 1/4 of an inch and everything. So I want to make sure that my upper areas are there too. So I'm going to bring this down to the top of my lithophane, and I'll bring this up here to the bottom. My magic number at this point right now is going to probably be 0.25 if I would have hit my mark right on target. Let's see, the closer you get, the better the odds are. And again, I could do the math to 0.22. So we'll go with 0.2216. That's fine. And so what I'm going to do here, just to kind of be, somewhat consistent and everything, I'm going to go into node editing mode, and I can grab this line and pull this line in the direction I want to go. And I can just type in 0.2216 and hit enter, and it'll snap it to that number that I put in, right? So I can grab this line down here at the bottom, pull it down or whatever direction I want to go. And then I can type in 0.2216 and hit enter, right? So I can snap that, you know, whichever way I pull the line and everything. I can tell it what distance, what direction it wants to go. I have to pull it in that direction. Then I just tell it what distance I'll go. All right. And yeah, Roger, I'll look up the website and everything. And I'll share it in the description along with the links for galaxy.ai and things like that for sure. I'm not going to go hunting for it right now, but though, Roger, because I have to go back and see if I got this particular batch from Amazon or if I got it from photo store and everything. But again, just a quick detour. Candlestone lithophane sheets, and you can get we've got the Porcelain Garden, Alibaba. Well, no, that's already 3D printed. We don't want that. Lithophane Essential Store. So we can buy all the, you know, products. And also lithophanes are now getting really popular to be 3D printed. So that's, I don't know anything about 3D printing. It's something I'd like to learn down the way. But 3D printing lithophanes is a thing. It's actually a very viable thing. But I'll share the link, Roger. I'll go find it and I'll put it in the description of the video. All right, so now let's take a look at what we have here, okay, on our model. So of course you can see we have our grayscale model here that was brought in, and if we look at it in the 3D view here, you can see how it was brought in and what was created and everything. Right? Now, this is the most important part. I mean, there's a lot of important parts, but this one is the most important part. The thinner the material, the more light that shines through. The thicker the material, the less light. So your dark areas, you want to be thicker, and the light areas you want to be thinner. And if we look at this model here, the pause, that's black. That's the darkest area. So that should be the thickest material. And so you can see right here, but though that's not the case. It is actually the thinnest in the way it brought it in. It brought it in as an ad. And on a normal ad, the lighter areas are the higher parts of the model and the darker areas are the lower part of the model. We need that completely inverted. So what we need to do is in our components, on the model component that was created, we need to reverse that, change the combine mode from add to subtract. And now we should be able to see that the pause are the lighter areas, they're brought up, and then all the lighter areas where more light's supposed to shine through, like the sky right here and everything, that's going to be the thinner areas of this lithophane. Okay, and this is, you know, kind of what we want. All right, that is the carbon that we want. Now, in this situation, I want you to notice that in this particular situation here, I want you to notice that we have kind of like some dull, darker areas and then some lighter areas and things. Well, we have our modeling plane, like our kind of our zero plane, which is used, like when we're doing domes and dishes and things like that. Well, in the case of this, we don't need the modeling plane on. Okay, the modeling plane indicates, it shows us things that are close or above the zero plane, the modeling plane, and then things that are below it. And right now, these lower areas and everything are below it, so they're kind of hazy. While the upper areas are just at that surface, so they're a little bit clear and all. Well, while I'm going to turn this off, the modeling plane off, because I don't need it in my view right now, you want to make sure that, I believe when you restart Vectric, it'll recheck itself, and everything, because it's the default. But you don't want to forget to turn it back on if when you're doing things like domes and dishes and all of that stuff where a zero plane comes in handy. But now with that modeling plane turned off, we can see everything darkened up. There's nothing hazy. We can see the detail much better and not kind of like hazed out and stuff. And so there's lots of detail in here. Now, next thing that's important is looking at my model thickness and stuff, right? Our model thickness and all. And we want to be under 1/4 of an inch, right? That's obvious. We want to be under 1/4 of an inch. And this one is 0.196, so it's good. I don't need to change it or do anything along there. I don't need to flatten anything out or anything. Now, if I were to bring this down to, let's say, 0.15, the model itself, when it regenerates and everything, some of those peaks and all might go away, but I just made my entire model much thinner. Okay, so now I don't really have that up to 1/4 of an inch to material being taken away, or to kind of block the light, if you will. And my model now has gotten thinner, so that means that's more material getting away, meaning that it's more translucent, meaning more light. So now my darks aren't going to be as dark, so on and so forth, right? So I don't want to do that. One would think, I want to kind of bring the peaks down a little bit and stuff like that, which is fine. But in this case, I want to actually reset my heights here. I'll just go back to my 196 where I was originally, which is not much of a change anyway, but I want to try to be, as thick as possible. Now, I do want to be thin and everything here. So the next step, when we're setting up the material setup, that's going to play a role with how things look on the front end and all that stuff. So here's our steps. We've imported the component by creating a component from a selected bitmap image. We come in and change it from a combined mode of an add, which is the default way it's brought in, to a subtract to reverse that, because we need our darks to be thicker, our lights to be thinner on this one. And then you check your size. If for some reason you happen to be over 1/4 of an inch, you got to be under 1/4 of an inch, right? And that kind of thing. Now, as a whole, if I wanted to, I could, bring this whole thing up to, let's say, 0.2, not 2 inches. Wait for it. Okay. But if I do that, if I try to bring myself closer and all, then my peaks start getting taller, more than necessary. They start getting taller more than necessary. So I think for the most part, my recommendation is you know, if it comes in, generally it will come in. Generally, it will come in under that quarter and all. But if it doesn't, bring yourself down, because if you are over the quarter, you bring yourself down. You're reducing those peaks anyway, so it's kind of it's a win-win. But if you're in there, if you're already under, which I was at 196. Don't try to make it thicker just because your material is thicker and all that stuff, because all you're doing is you're raising those peaks a little bit, and it makes things a little bit more fragile and stuff like that. And also, the bit's got to get inside those peaks and everything, and then that's really going to push whether you're using a 16th inch or a 32nd inch, right? Okay. All right. Enough of that. So we've reversed our combine mode to a subtract. We've got our graphic, and you can see here now, you can see in the 2D view how it created that negative image, right? So in our negative image and everything, we can see that the pause and everything are the higher parts. In a standard 3D model, the whites are the highest part, the darks are the lowest part, right? Well, in our case, the high parts, which is showing in the 2D view, which are white, is actually our darks, right? So that's where the material is going to be the thickest. And the darker areas, which in a 3D model is usually the lower parts, that's going to be our lights. And that's what we're seeing here, right? So our sky is dark, so it's going to be lower down, that kind of thing. Don't want to lose you on that, but I just want you to understand what you're seeing and everything. In a real regular model that's not a lithophane, when you import it in the grayscale, whites are the highest part of the model, dark down all the shades of gray to black, the deepest part of the model, right? And so black, our black sky, you know, that's the deepest part of the model, where that light was shining on the tree, those dark spots and everything, so less light's going to be able to get through. Cool stuff. All right, so I've got a place for some clamps and all that wonderful jazz out here on the edge. I'll be able to trim this down to fit in my rabbit. If I wanted my rabbit to be a little bit thicker, depending on my frame that I'm using and blah, 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 then I scale the image appropriately, scale my little vector border appropriately, all that good jazz, right? Okay. Now, I don't want the model, like, you know, going right when I'm carving and everything. I don't want to carve the entire surface away. I want to stay within the photo. I want to stay within the photo. So I'm going to take on my component, I'm going to just select it, and I'm going to have it create a boundary around the model there. And I'm just going to keep that vector boundary, this one right there. That's going to be my carving boundary. Stay within that carving boundary. All right, all right. So over on the Toolpath side of the software over here, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to do the material setup. Pay attention to this, these settings and everything that we're going to talk about in the material setup. On the material setup, the big thing is the model position in the material. That's what we want to focus on, okay? And the light tan area of this whole block is your 1/4 inch piece of material, right? The whole block is your 1/4 inch piece of material. And the light area represents the model. And then the dark area represents the remaining material and everything. We do not want the remaining material, all of the remaining material, should I say. We do not want it at the bottom of this. We want to have some of it at the top that it's going to get milled away, right? Now, notice here my gap above material and everything is currently set at 0, where my gap below material is 0.054. That's what I want to adjust, my gap below the material. This is when because we carve from the back, in a sense. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. Ignore that part. I don't even know why that came out of my mouth. That was the stupidest thing I could say. We light from the back while we carve on the top. And so our back is going to be the smooth, uncut part of the material, right? And the light is going to shine through this material, and it's going to disperse through this image. In the thinner area, it's going to have more light being able to come through. The thicker areas, less light, and that's going to give us all of our different shades, you know, and everything. And so what I have found, and Vectric kind of, you know, they have this in their videos as well too, but around point a 32nd, a little bit more, 0.04 is a good amount of material to have between where your carve stops, like the bottom of the carve, to the back. It's kind of an ideal because your lights will really be light. It's not going to be too fragile or thin where it could crack or something like that. Because soapstone, I mean, it's not, soapstone is not candlestone, not soapstone. Candlestone is not fragile by any means, but I mean, it's still, you know, when you're cutting thin, I mean, there's still some, could be some brittleness in a sense, but 0.04, not 0.4, ladies and gentlemen, 0.04. So we're going to leave 0.04 material under on the back side, right? You know, where the lights go and everything. And then our model, the deepest part of the model, is going to carve to that point, right? And then all the excess material that's left over, which isn't much, it's only like 14 thousandths of an inch, right? That's just going to get milled away. Okay. Awesome. So that's kind of, it's a good magic little number, 0.04, you know, to work with. And if you feel that you're not getting the lights that you want, you know, your darks are okay, nothing, no problem there, but you're not getting the lights you want, you'd like to try to get a little bit more light through, then you could bring this down to a 32nd, 0.03125. But I really would stress not to go beyond that. Is that fair to say? Say that, we can say that. So 0.04 would be kind of our start point. Now, make sure you have enough, you know, Z gap above material to move around safely, all that stuff, just everything that you set up. Let me fix for some, I don't know why my numbers are off here. Okay, I'm just raising up a 1/2 inch above the material. That's good. All right, so on the material setup, that's the number we're working with. We're going to click OK. Okay, so now we are going to have a rough cut, and we are going to have a finish cut, but we're going to actually cut the rough cut with a ball nose bit. We're going to use, for me, it's going to be the 1/8 inch tapered ball nose bit. And I'm going to edit the bit settings and everything. I want my pass step to be 60%, or Jesus, Lord have mercy. Oh, forgive me, Lord, for using your name, but a 1/16 of an inch, not 60%, a 1/16 of an inch. And normally on our ball nose, like your normal defaults, when you choose a ball nose, should probably be around 8%, right? That's our finished detail. When we're finished carving 3D models and all, we want a nice 8% step over. I mean, some beautiful detail and all that stuff. Well, you'll notice here that I'm up at 40% because we're using it as a rough cut. So I want the pass step to be a 1/16 of an inch. I want the step over to be 40%. And I'm just using this bit to rough away. And you're going to see the ridges in that rough cut. You'll see that spacing of that 40%. You'll know it's not an 8% step over for sure, but it doesn't matter in the rough cut. What matters is time, and what matters is, you know, getting whatever thick areas that need to go away. Okay, and again, it's not, we're not carving that deep, so it should be fairly quick. Now, I am going to bring this down to about a 12,000 RPM. I'm going to be running about 75 inches a minute with a 20 inch a minute plunge. Okay. If you want, you can also bring this down to about a 55 inch a minute, and that's fine. I'm going to run this at 75 inches a minute, and that should do well for me and everything. If you need to increase your RPMs for anything or what have you, 14 to 15,000 RPMs is where you kind of want to bring that to, but we're going to be at 12,000. All right, so that's going to be our rough cut bit setting. So once again, 1/8 inch tapered ball nose with a 1/16 inch radius. The pass depth is a 1/16 of an inch. The step over is 40%, running 12,000 RPMs, feed rate of 75, plunge of 20. Okay. All right. Now, you could almost match your plunge rate with your feed rate and everything, or half it, if you, 32.5 or whatever, if you wanted to. I'm just leaving it what I normally keep it at, which is 20. So that's that. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to use the selected vector as the boundary. Remember, I want to stay in this area. We're using the selected vector as the boundary. I'm going to do a Z level raster. I'm not going to do a 3D raster. Don't do a 3D raster. All we're trying to do is mill away the levels, get rid of all the waste, everything. We are not cutting this 3D model with this ball nose bit. We're Z leveling it. Just takes the Z down, getting rid of all the thick areas. Okay. All right. So we're going to just call this my Grizzly. I think I'm spelling Grizzly, right? Grizzly. Because when I say it with my redneck tone, I say it Grizzly, right? But I think it's Grizzly. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. 3D rough. 3D rough. And it's my 0.125 TBN, tapered ball nose. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and calculate this. Now, sometimes, depending on everything, your calculation time is going to be, what it is and everything, depending on how much material's actually got to get removed and all that stuff. In this case, very little material is getting removed by the rough bit, just those skies, those deep areas where more light has to really shine through. So some of the areas on the little tree there, and then the sky areas, pretty much, all that has to be removed on that. Even though there's not much material being removed, don't skip the rough cut. Do it. Just do it. Right? Yeah, that kind of thing. Now, if I wanted to, if I didn't want to do a bit change, let's say I did not want to do a bit change, I could do the rough cut with my 1/16 inch tapered ball nose that I'm going to be doing my finish cut with. That way I don't have to do a bit change, and I'd probably remove a little bit more material than what would normally be removed. Case in point, if I'll just leave that one right there. But case in point, if I do a 3D rough cut, and I came in here and on the 1/16 inch tapered ball nose, again, I want to go a 1/16 of an inch. I'm going to crank this to 40%. 40, 12,000. This one, it is a smaller bit and everything, so I'll bring it to 65, and I will bring this to about 30. Click apply. Same if select. I changed my settings in my tool database. That's a terrible way to do that. I should have brought the bit in and hit the edit button, because the edit button, any changes I make are only for that tool path. Now I'm going to have to remember to go back, or the next time I use my tapered ball nose, I'm going to have to remember to go back to an 8% step over and 18,000 RPMs and so on and so forth, and 125 inches a minute, what I normally run. All because I just changed the settings in the actual tool database rather than bringing the tool in, editing the tool from here, because this edit does not affect the tool database settings. It only affects the settings for this toolpath. Should have done that, but I didn't. You should remember to do that, right? Pro tip of the day. Okay. Again, we're still going to use the selected vector as the boundary. On here, generally your default would be 0.04 you'd be leaving, but in this case, 0.04 is, kind of that number that was at the bottom of my material, right? I want to 0.03. That's how much material I want to leave for the finish cut to do. Z level raster. Once again, this will be my, we'll call this my Grizzly rough option 2, 0.0625 tapered ball nose, right? So let's calculate that and everything. And again, calculation time is going to, take on whatever it takes. But I want you to notice something. It did not change the areas that are getting rough cut on this image. It just made it more dense, the carving more dense, because it's a smaller bit, right? Tighter area and everything. I don't need to worry about that. My finish cut is going to clean all that up, so I don't need to do that. Now, I am using an 1/8 inch bit. That means I do have a tool change. If I didn't want to do the tool change, then using the 1/16 inch bit, all it does is just do more in that little area, but it's not changing the area at this point. So yeah, there's no problem. If I didn't want to do a tool change, I'm okay with doing a tool change. But some people want to just one tool go kind of thing, whatever floats your boat, right? All right, so let's go ahead and let's take a look here in our 3D view. Let's take a look at that cut. Okay, and you can see the step over. I mean, you can absolutely see the step over from that 40% and everything, but all it's doing is hogging away that material. And again, it's not in the whole scheme of things on this whole photo. There's not a whole lot of stuff getting roughed out, but don't skip it. Just do it, right? And everything. All right, that way just kind of just keep your routine. All right, so now the finish cut. Now the finish cut, we can do 1 bit, we can do 2 bits, we can do, in this case, I have my 16th inch tapered ball nose. I also have my 32nd inch tapered ball nose programmed in here and everything. I'm going to pull out the 32nd inch tapered ball nose. I'll leave in the the 16th inch tapered ball nose. Sorry. Lord have mercy. I was going to make a joke about my pullout game, but anyhow, the 16th inch tapered ball nose, 5.4 degree. I got in here. I'm going to edit the settings. Now this time, I do want an 8% step over. I want an 8% step over. Now the clearance pass step over, 15%. The clearance pass step over, if the bit is used as a clearance bit, that's what it's going to do, but it's the step over. The step over is what matters, right? All right, now here I'm going to use a spindle speed of 16,000 RPM. So we're going to increase the spindle speed. I'm actually going to run this around 50 to 65 inches per minute. I really want to kind of like it to take its time. There's a lot of little details, and it's never, I don't care if I put this thing at 3,000 inches a minute, right? That router has to stop, accelerate, decelerate to get into the curves and the ups and downs and all that. So it's just like driving a car. We're going to accelerate up the hill, decelerate down the hill. We're going to decelerate into a corner, accelerate out of the corner, all that stuff. The CNC does the same thing. So I'm never really going to reach 50 inches a minute. It's just like a straightaway. If I have a straightaway, 0 to 60 inches, miles an hour, I'm going to get there, right? But I'm having to kind of stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. And I'm moving. I'm constantly moving, but I'm also moving up and down. So I'm really never going to hit it. So it doesn't matter what it does matter what you put here, but you don't have to like, oh man, I want to go faster and all. It's not going to change your speed at all. So I'm 50 inches a minute, 15 on the plunge and everything. I want to kind of I'm really getting down into these details and stuff. So that's going to be my settings for this. Okay, let's go ahead and click OK on that. Now, again, we're going to look at the result of the preview. We'll zoom in on it and everything, and we'll be able to decide, oh, yeah, that's going to be great enough. Or we could decide to do, create that extra toolpath with the smaller bit as well, too, right? All right. So, again, the selected vector is the boundary, making sure my vector is selected. I'm going to do a raster this time. Now, here's the important thing. I'm going to do a raster. And a raster is back and forth like a printer. Back and forth, back and forth. Well, I do not want to go back and forth straight. It's going to take away from the image. It's going to be distracting and everything. We're going to actually angle the raster, and in this case, we're going to go with a 45-degree angle so it cuts this way, and that's going to do a couple of things. One, it's going to, the human eye, we scan and read left to right. We scan and read left to right. So when we see horizontal lines and everything, our eyes can pick up those lines, very easily. Shift those lines, 30, 45 degrees or just an angle. And in the scheme of things, when we're looking at things, they can kind of fade away. Our vision, we really don't catch on to it that much. And that's what we want. We want that effect to where we're not seeing the carving lines, but also it's going to also create a nice effect for the lighting and everything too when we go at that angle and stuff. So 45-degree angle. So here, once again, my settings. We have a 16th inch tapered ball nose with a 32nd inch radius, doing 8% on the step over. Clearance past step over doesn't matter, but 15%. 16,000 RPMs at 50 inches a minute with a 15 inch a minute plunge. Using the selected vectors, the boundary, we want to stay in our framed area and everything. No boundary offset, doing a raster cut at a 45-degree angle. All right, let's go ahead, and this will be my Grizzly 3D finish. 0.0625 tapered ball nose. Okay, calculate. Now this one's going to take a minute to calculate, and it's got to get into a lot of detail. So we might actually freeze up a little bit. So if I freeze, now's the time to take a bathroom break if you got to and all. But it's going to take some time for this small bit to calculate this entire toolpath. It's not going to take a lot of time, but it's going to take some time. And it's going to put a lot of stress on the computer. So before I hit calculate, I'm going to hit save. So I don't lose any of my work and we have to start over. Because right now you see how it says new up there. I haven't saved anything up to this point. So I'm going to go File, Save As. This is going to be my Grizzly Lithophane. And it's a 12 by 10. I'm going to hit save to save that. So now I have my work saved in case it does crash, because it is going to put a stress. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, when you calculate for a 32nd inch tapered ball nose and a 64th radius, you might as well kind of sit back for a moment and relax, because it's going to take some time depending on your processing power of your computer and all that stuff. All right, so if I freeze, it will unfreeze. Stay with me. Stay on, right? If I freeze, it will unfreeze when it's finished rendering. If it affects the stream, because it's gonna, a lot of resources are gonna get pulled into calculating this, because I also am at an extremely high level. So just giving you forewarning, and we'll calculate this. But before we do, let me answer a question. Why not kick the step over up on the rough and lower in the why not kick the step over up in the rough and lower in the finish? Let's back up here. The rough cut has a 40% step over, so kicked it up. Right there. So the rough cut kicked it up, and the finish cut I didn't hit calculate, so I didn't finish. Hold on, let me remove that, go back here. The finish cut 8% lower, right? So I did. The answer to that is I did. All right, so we'll click OK. Selected vector is the boundary. Raster, 45-degree angle. Let me rename this again. Grizzly 3D finish. And 0.0625 tapered ball nose. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to hit calculate. It shouldn't take long, like a few seconds. But if I do freeze or anything like that, you're not missing anything. Okay, so hang tight with me. Here we go. We're going to hit calculate, and now. Don't look like I'm freezing. Right. Save, save, save. All right. There we go. Not too bad. It did pretty good. All right, let's take a look here. Let's go in and take a look at these lines and everything. Zoom right into the toolpath lines and everything. That 45-degree angle here. Let me see if I can get it to zoom in this way. Right, so that 45-degree angle, they're really a tight step over at that 8%, and we're going to get really, really good detail and everything. When you bring it into your controller, most likely it looks like this in the controller. It looks like just a square. You can't see anything. You know, you import the toolpath in, it's like, where's my bear? You know, all I see is a square, a tan square and everything. And the bear's in there, right? It's just the step over. And I'll show you what I mean. I'll bring it into my controller in the next screen here to show you what I mean. But let's take a preview of this. Let's run the preview of this and see how we did. All right. All right, one thing I can see from the preview is on the upper vector, I need to lower down. So I must be in a white area and I didn't get my vector line, the boundary vector. I didn't get it quite down where it needs to be. So I need to lower that to eliminate that there. So we have a nice clean cut like this at our thicker part. Also, second thing is, let's switch this over. We're going to have this as a solid color. Color is going to be white, like our candlestone. And then we're going to turn on the lithophane option right here. And this is going to create that backlight. And when it creates the backlight, we have a slide bar that we can adjust to give us the effect of our lighting and everything. And so if we wash out too much and everything, we want to get that lighting just so. All right. And so this, if when we bring in our, let me see here if I can, there we go. When we bring in our backlight and everything, when we turn on our backlight and everything, we're going to have, you know, those lighter areas being light, more light coming through, those darker areas, less light coming through. And this is what the effect that we should expect from our carve. And the lithophane setting in here, we don't want to be too washed out, right? You know, that means we got way too much light coming through. But we also, there's that fine point where, that one fine point where it just, you know, no light is going to be coming through on the 1/4 inch, very little, you know, on the frame up here, but this is going to all be cut off. And then this is what our effect's going to look like. Okay. So now if I come in here and everything, you can see that it's really soft, meaning blurry. And everything, and the 16th inch tapered ball nose, while it got in there and got some detail, you can see those tool marks and all that stuff. But for the most part, the when it's backlit and everything, it's still a pretty decent amount of detail. Now, let me hit save to save that addition to that toolpath there and everything. I'm going to add in the 64th tapered ball nose. No, my LEDs, I could put a dimmer on them, but they have an on-off switch. Need them at their brightest. And everything, but you could absolutely put a dimmer on if you want, but they're wired to a 12-volt plug, and right in the middle of the plug is an on-off switch and everything. The no dimmer. Want as much light as we can going through, and the I just light the inside edge of the frame so that the light kind of contrasts. And some people, they'll put reflective paper in there to get the light to smoothly, fade across, and diffusing film and things like that they'll put in the back and all this stuff. But I mean, the candlestone is a diffusing film, right? The back of it is. So you just need to light it up, and it's gonna, you'll have your hot spots are going to be at the closest side of the edge where the lights actually are. But that's also going to be the thicker part, because that's going to be the part that's in the rabbit, right? And things like that. Now, I am going to calculate this with the 64th inch bit to show what the difference would be. This one's going to take a moment. So we're going to come in on a 3D finish here, and on a 3D finish, I could calculate it for the larger bit and then have the 64th go back and do the smaller, but I'll just calculate it for a 64th because if I try to calculate the two, we're going to be here for a good 4 minutes waiting, right, kind of thing. So I'm going to remove this, and I'll select my 64th inch tapered ball nose, and I'm going to 16th inch pass depth. I'm going to do 8% again, 15,000 RPMs on this. It's a smaller bit, 65 and 15. Selected vector is the boundary. I'm going to raster that, and the raster angle is going to be 45 degrees. Now, I am now calculating this model with a smaller bit. Normally, we would do the bigger bit, the 16th, and then the 32nd, right? 16th and 32nd in the same toolpath. But if I did that right now for preview purposes and everything, it would take a while for it literally, I've gone through this earlier today, testing everything out and all that stuff, and it just takes some time, right? So for time's sake, I'm just calculating a separate toolpath for the 16th inch so we can just see the difference. We're going to run the 16th right over this one, but let's go ahead and calculate this. All right, if I do freeze up, be patient. I'll be back with you and all that, but it is going to put a lot of stress on the computer. There we go. Not too bad, not too shabby. Everything comes out pretty good. Okay, now let's really take a look at this, and we can see that we're going to get some finer lines, finer detail and everything in there and stuff. And let's go ahead, and I'm going to tilt this just a little bit. I'm going to slow down the speed here. And it's going to be carving from the bottom right corner up. And if we looked closely, and everything, we should start to see things starting getting, before I said it was soft, meaning blurry. We should start to see things harden up or crisp up, the lines and the details and everything as it comes through. We'll see the kind of the bit and everything coming through and stuff. And let's take a look at that here. So I'm going to turn off the preview bit, but I want you to concentrate your eyes. There's an imaginary line right here. I'm going to turn off the visibility of the bit, but I want you to, I'll even, zoom in so you can see. If you look closely, there's a line right there. Let me turn off the bit preview, and you'll see that line kind of almost like a tidal wave, just coming across there. Very faintly, you'll watch that line. And what's happening is, as we zoom in more and more and everything, that bit is getting into more and more of that detail that the larger bit can't get into, and it's cleaning up those areas, right? So it's really going through and cleaning it up. Now, again, this is going to require much more runtime. We'll kind of compare the runtimes in things in just a second, but as it goes through, it's really you can kind of see as it goes through, it's really kind of bringing out those peaks and details. And where we're really going to see a big difference is when it gets into the bare. So I'm going to turn the speed up a little bit. And that line is right here, moving across at a 45-degree angle. So I'm going to increase the speed just a little bit. And you'll be able to see that line coming across. You should be able to see it still. I'll zoom in a little bit. There's that line right there. Getting into more and more of those details and everything. Getting in, especially in the head here. Getting into more of those details. Right, you should be able to see that. That's that smaller bit getting in there and everything to create that. You can see that line. You should be able to see it still in the as it comes through the trees. That 45-degree line. The mouse is following that path and everything as it really goes in. And now you can see, like in the bear's back and everything, we get a little bit more detail in that, you know, the body and stuff like that. So with our lithophane, like I said, let me get the lighting right again. Bear with me. There we go. That's what we're looking at. All right. So Lainey, if someone gives you a picture of a couple getting married that you want to carve, would you be able to put this through AI? Yeah, you can use an image. You can import an image to. You wouldn't need to, just so you know, you wouldn't need to run it through AI. You just import the image into your Vectric. That's it. But if you wanted to, I mean, there's all kinds of AI image editors and things like that that might, you know, clean up an image or something for you and stuff like that. But if they gave you an image, you just import the image right into your Vectric software and create the lithophane. Sleepy Hollow, we're using candlestone material. And so let me show you here really quickly. So we're using a 1/4-inch candlestone material, and I got to peel the protective coating off, but it's a translucent material. You can use corian. Hell, you can, if you know, you could do PVC pipe, PVC sheets, a translucent white material, right? But candlestone is a phenomenal. It carves beautifully. It's really rich in its whites and everything, and that's what we're using. But like I was telling the class earlier, is I've used PVC pipe on a rotary axis to do round lithophanes, you know, for images and stuff. The corian, you know, started off with 1/4-inch corian, white corian, but few years into it and everything, I transitioned to candlestone. All right, so now that we see that, right, we saw this is the process start to finish. Okay, I want to really quickly, I want to save the 3D finish and estimated times really quickly. The 3D finish, the two 3D finishes, right? So the 16th inch tapered ball nose, you're looking at about 9 hours. The 32nd inch tapered ball nose around 15 hours. So like I said, it's a, you know, that's estimated again. So one or the other, right? You know, or a combination of both if you're using both, you know, kind of things. But I want to save this image really quickly, this 3D finish. And I want to open it up in my controller. I talked about, you don't really see the image very well in the controller. All you see is a square and everything. So in the controller, if I were to import, let me go big on this. On the controller here, if I were to import that toolpath, when it comes in, it's going to just kind of, you're not really going to see the bear and everything. You're just going to see this kind of square. And depending on, your controller and everything, it's like, it sometimes, especially with lasers and things like that, all it is a square of these are all the lines, right? That the bit is following to cut and everything. And, but when it comes in there, it looks really odd and all. But this one, I can actually see the bear. I can make out the detail in this. In some toolpaths, like laser toolpaths and stuff, all you see is just a square, and stuff like that. So I want to kind of bring it into the controller to show that. All right, let's go ahead and close out of that. And what I want to do is, again, I'm going to hit save. Now that we know the steps from start to finish, from creating the AI to importing the image as like creating a component from an imported or selected bitmap, to reversing it, creating the rough cut and the finish cut toolpath. As we wrap up here and everything, I want to do that one last image with just kind of the process, right? And I want you to see that it's pretty much rinse and repeat. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go ahead and go into the components. I'm going to turn off the grizzly bear. And I'm going to go into the 2D view. In this case, I'm going to make the image a little bit smaller. It's more of a portrait. I have it more of a portrait style than a landscape. I could rotate the model 90 degrees to fit on the board and all that. Why not? Let's do that. That'll just make my life easier. Get it centered. All right, in this case, I'm going to, I'll leave that one there, and I'm going to create a new boundary. All right, go into the properties of the bear in the woods. Turn the add to a subtract. This will reverse this, bringing all the dark areas up, so it's thicker material, all the light areas down, so it's thinner material and everything. My thickness here, I'm about 0.1783. I'm going to, again, like I said, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to make any changes to that at all. I'm going to go over to the material setup, rinse and repeat, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I am going to keep my 0.04 here. That's my number. So whatever's left over between my 1/4 of an inch, my model that's 0.1783, and my 0.04, all that excess that's left over goes to the top, and it's going to get milled off. So in this case, it'll be about a 32nd that gets milled off and everything. All right, so that's going to be my material setup. So boom, import, size, rotate, whatever you're going to do with it. Reverse it from add to subtract. Go over to your material setup. I like the 0.04. You can, we talked about that in the first part of the video. You can set it to whatever you want. But 0.04, 0.03, 125, a 32nd would be about the least I would go on that. And it goes on the gap below the material. All right, let's go ahead and click on OK. And we're going to do a 3D rough cut. With the 3D rough cut, I'm using an 1/8 inch tapered ball nose. We could use, again, the other ball nose knob, but I'm using an 1/8 inch. On that particular tool, it's got a 40% step over, 1/16 of an inch pass depth. These are my settings. These are the settings that I like that work well, but you can, whatever you want to do, right? 12,000 RPMs, 75 inches a minute with a 20-inch plunge, 20 inch a minute per minute plunge. So we're going to use the selected vector as the boundary. I'm going to leave about 0.03 of an allowance for the finish bit and everything. And it's going to be a Z level. And the raster angle in this case, it's not going to be the 45 degree. This one can raster back and forth and everything. And that's my 3D rough. Okay, so this is just a black bear. And it's going to be my 3D rough. Okay, so far it's just the same steps, and it's rinse and repeat. Once you kind of get the routine down, I mean, really, you could start to kind of rock and roll with this. All right, let's go ahead and reset the preview, and you can see the areas that are getting removed, and you're definitely going to be able to see when we carve this, that step over, that 40% step over, and that's fine because all that step over is going to get cleaned up with the finish cut, right? But all we're doing is we're trying to just kind of mill away those deeper areas and things. All right, so let's go ahead and create the 3D finish cut, right? Everything that we talked about for this last few hours, nothing's changing. We're going to, in this case, I'm actually going to just, again, I could do the 16th inch or the 32nd inch tapered ball nose, whatever you like. Again, 16th does a lot of photos, like Robert was talking about, Ronnie was talking about, you know, a wedding photo or something like that. For the most part, you know, your 16th inch tapered ball nose will do well for detail and everything. But I don't have a whole lot of detail on this one, on the bear and all, just its fur and stuff and everything. So I probably could get away with a 16th inch tapered ball nose. Just because I'm saying that, I'll go ahead and choose that one. And I'm going to be an 8% step over, 1/16 of an inch pass depth. We're going to go 16,000 RPMs, 55, 15. Just did it again. Do not do that, ladies and gentlemen. Don't change your tool settings in your tool database. Bring the tool in, hit edit, make your changes here so the changes only affect that tool path and do not change your tool database unless it's a change that, hey, this tool needs to be at these settings permanently. Then yeah, of course, change your tool database. But did that again after I just said not to do that earlier. All right, so selected vector is the boundary. This time we are raster cutting, and we are cutting at a 45-degree angle. That says 15, 45-degree angle. And we're going to have our black bear 3D finish. 0.0625 tapered ball nose. All right. So let's go ahead and calculate that. All right, so I got a couple of questions. Let me just show this preview, and then I got 2 questions to answer. So let's kind of come in here and wait for it. Give me just a minute, Ronnie Bishop and Brooks Martin. I'll answer your question in just a second. All right, let me turn this a bit like that. All right, so we're going to preview that toolpath. It's going to go from the top down because I've turned this part and everything. All right, so Ron Bishop, on a tap file like this, that would take that long to run. Is there a way to split the G code where you have 2 or 3 tap files to complete? Sometimes don't have time to run the files as a whole. So I am hoping, Ron, that you're going to keep the material on the table and not try to take the material off and then put it back on later, and take the material off and put it back on later, you know, for whenever you have time to run that. But yes, there's a term, you know, that was used back in the day. Brooks Martin, you know, is very familiar with it. You know, tape splitting in a sense, which is basically you can break up the G code. In the Planet CNC software, we have what's called bookmarks. So we can select sections and we can run certain bookmarks. Give me just a moment. We can run certain bookmarks and tell it to run from bookmark to bookmark, right? So we can bookmark our lines, and we can have it just run a particular bookmark of code and stuff. And so, yeah, you could break it up that way. You could pause, you know, like, you know, start it, let it run, pause it throughout the evening, continue the next day, however you want to do. But you could split it up, but you're not gonna I mean, you could go into your G code and just edit it. You could create 3 separate files if you wanted to, by just copy and pasting, you know, your G code into other, you know, notepad documents and save it as .tap, right? So there is a way to do that. I'll show in Planet CNC the bookmark feature, and so you can see what I'm referring to. And then Brooks says, so I understand Candlestone is a brand name of a white acrylic like Corian or Ebonite. Candlestone is a I want to say it's a stone, brother. I do not think it's I mean, it could be man-made acrylic because it is stamped MA 1101, but I do not know how it's manufactured or mined or what, you know, it is. You'll have to just Google that. You know, Google will know that answer better than I do. And then JR says individual toolpath, separate files. Okay, so let's see here. Let's go back to the controller. I'll be give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that. I had to let Lainey out to use the little girl's room. Okay, so the let's go into the controller. Not that controller, to all right, let's go ahead and bring that back in. Oop, dadgummit. Give me just a second, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, click happy and close the program. Okay, so here on the right hand side in the G code, okay, I can come in and select a section of G code. Okay. And then I can go into the bookmarks and I can set that. In this case, I want to toggle it. And you'll see that that entire section of lines now has that red line next to it. And so that area is bookmarked. Now, I could, if I wanted to, start another bookmark from here, keep going all the way down, you know, however many thousand lines you want to run. 600 lines is only like 2 minutes worth of running time, right? But, you know, go down, and again, I can toggle that bookmark on. And when it comes to running these bookmarks and everything, in the machine, on my start options, I can, you know, if I start from a selected line, I'm just saying start from a selected line. But in this case, I want to carve a bookmark area. And so I can start from one bookmark and run to the next one, and basically it stops at that next one. I can start from the beginning of my G code to the first bookmark, where like at the first bookmark it stops. So I could use the bookmark as kind of like, you know, a don't run that kind of thing. Or I could run from the beginning of my bookmark to the end of the file, right? Like if I wanted to bookmark, let's say I wanted to run the last half of my design, but there's a particular area I want to start in. I could bookmark that. And it could just be one line, right? I could select one line and bookmark it. And I could say, hey, run from that bookmark to the end, right? So it'll just run all the way to the end of the G code. And so I have the ability to, if I, you know, bookmark these files, I could run bookmark to bookmark, which means it'll run from the first bookmark to the next one and just stop there. And then I come down to, let's go back up to line 400. I think I was at 4 something at the end of that first bookmark. 4 or 6. Where, oh, they're going to be right next to each other, so I don't really have a dividing line. Let me find, it was 695. Write your bookmark numbers down for sure. The software would know where it started to stop, but I don't. Somewhere around the 690 mark. Anyhow, let me toggle that one off. Let me do this again. One more time from here. I'll just go to 1,000. Bookmark. And then write down what my bookmarks, you know, the start and the end of them. So that way I can, you know, click on it and say, you know, run this bookmark, right? And so it'll just run that bookmark and everything. And now that 1,000 lines, that 1,000 lines from the bottom left corner where the design starts, right? So this right here to that point right there where that red dot is, that's that 1,000 lines. It's crazy. All right, so, you know, as if we click down these lines, you can see each of those lines, right? So that's that 1,000 lines. And if I go up, that's that back and forth all the way back to the beginning. Crazy stuff, right? So 1,000 lines is nothing. It's only just a few minutes, right? So whatever you need to do, you can bookmark. Now, I don't know what controller software you have run or how, you know, I don't know anything about Mach 3 or WinCNC or Universal G-Code Sender or, you know, whatever, right? However they do, however you can do that. Or you can decide, what your point of start and point of stop is. And in Notepad, you can copy and paste that, into one or the other. But you got to remember now, you have stuff at your footer that's important, for your machine and all. If you have tool change, you have code in the middle and all that stuff and everything. There's no tool change on this, but so your footer needs to really kind of, if you are going to break this up into individual files, you need to kind of have your header and your footer in there and all that stuff. It's important. If you're going to break it out, you got to kind of work it out. So let that go. Corian has, hold on a second here. Corian is not stone at all. It's a man-made plastic. Hold on a second. What is Corian made of? Corian is a solid surface material composed of approximately 2/3 natural minerals, so that could be stone, right? And 1/3 acrylic resin. So there are natural minerals. The primary minerals are alumina trihydrate, ATH, derived from bauxite. The acrylic resin is methyl acrylic, PMMA, also known as acrylic polymer, right? Alumina trihydrate, ATH, 60-65% of that is white powder. It's derived from bauxite ore, so that is a stone. And the primary source, it's the primary source for aluminum, believe it or not. Yeah. There you go. Little science lesson. All right. Kind of goes back to never watch sausage being made or hot dogs. Thanks. Yeah. All right. So, however you wish to break your up in our controller or Planet CNC controller, we have bookmarks. I also have the I can set a particular kind of mark a particular spot and everything. And I don't know, I don't really, the mark I don't use that much, but I can, select a marked line. I can go to that line if I mark it or something, but that marking just marks a line if I need to remember what line it is. It doesn't do anything for running or carving. Bookmarks is what I want. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that is going to wrap us up. There's the results of that Blackberry, by the way, and you see, again, it's soft and all. So I would probably, because of the fur and all, while that would be there's nothing wrong with that at all as a lithophane sitting on the mantle or whatever. Absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. I would probably like to get a little bit more detail in there. So I probably would run that Toolpath with a 32nd inch bit. But again, that's where time is a factor, right? And 8% step over, all that stays the same. Good. Time is a factor, and it's for me, time's just time, right? So it's whatever, it depends on your business and whatever you're trying to do. All right, if we preview that, I'm going to just preview it at full speed. If I turn the draw tool on, you can see it's coming down from that top right. So there's the line. If we watch the face, you can see it really get in there. you know, really crisp up those edges and everything. Really bring out that ground and stuff. Much improved and all. So there you go. All right, so last question. So you can turn off the machine between runs, your bookmarks, headers, and footers. I wonder about no. You could. It depends on your setup. So with my 4848, my commercial unit, I know where I stop. I know where that machine position is. When I start in the morning, I can home my machine and I can move to that machine position. I can re-zero out my work offset there and everything and just pick up right where I left off. Okay. I have limit switches. I can home my machine and I can get back to, you know, pretty much where I started. So no problem. Now, if I have a CNC like my 2440, which my 2440 does have limit switches, but if it didn't, I have no way of really homing the machine. So at that point on my 2440, if I was running this, that machine, the control box stays on so that my machine is brought back to XY0. My line numbers are written down all, but I go back to XY0 and that machine stays on until that project is finished. So if I need to stop for the night, if I needed to stop for the night and then pick it up the next morning, I don't turn the machine off, right? The computer and the machine stay on. And at that point, I would either pause the program if I wasn't doing bookmark to bookmark, or I would just remember the line that I stopped at or the bookmark I stopped at, because then I can pick up from the next bookmark or I can pick up from the next line. I can start from a selected line or whatever the case may be. But I would not, if I didn't have a way to home my machine or to be precise about where I'm at, because on a smaller machine and all, when you turn on the machine, the brakes on the motor, they engage, right? So a stepper motor wants to move, but there's brakes holding it when it's on. It's holding it from moving when it's idle, right? That brake is holding it still. That's why your motors get warm while it's not moving and everything. But when it's moving, the brakes release, so the stepper motor can do what it's got to do, right? You know what I mean? But then the brake is when it's stopped, right? So if I turn off the power, then the brake releases and the motor kind of relaxes, right? Well, when I go to turn the machine back on, it's going to jump. Now, depending on my drive system, if I have a belt drive system, if I have a ball screw drive system, rack and pinion, if I have a lead screw driven, in your belt drivings and things like that, it's going to jump, and it's going to slightly jump off position, in one way or another by a few thousandths of an inch, right? So right then and there, I'm off. And I will actually see that when it carves that 3D model. You'll see that line where it kind of just started just a few thousandths over, right? So at that point, if I didn't have limit switches at all, that machine wouldn't turn off. It would stay on. Because I do not want that situation where that jump, during the restart happened. I just want to stay right where I'm at. But if I have a machine with limit switches and everything, then I can home the machine, and then I can move right back to that machine's location, set my work, position and everything, because I'll know where my XY0 was, that machine location for my XY0. I can come right back there and re-zero out, and I'll know exactly what line I stopped at, so I can continue on and not miss a beat, right? So it really just depends. Yeah, so tape splitting adds footers and headers and all that stuff in the segments. And Brooks, hey, in the chat, brother, if you know a good program that does tape splitting, let me know. If it's not something manual and there's a program that does that for you, put it in the chat so everybody knows what to look for. That would be cool. All right, everybody. Any other questions? If not, we are going to say goodbye at this point, and that's Lithophanes in a nutshell. right? Give them a try. If you haven't, I haven't, not a lot of people talk about lithophanes anymore, doing lithophanes. It's kind of like a fad that died, in my opinion, because I just don't see a whole lot about it anymore. But I'm sure there's people still doing it, right? It's still an amazing thing. But yeah, it's a great way to Amazon your LED lights, and everything. Pretty cool stuff. All right, everyone. Y'all have a wonderful evening. I'm going to go get my dog and some dinner. We'll see you tomorrow for our paid Spindle TV subscribers. Tomorrow we'll have our class at 8 o'clock. Hope you can join me. And everybody else, we'll see you next Thursday. Have a great night.